This is a $500 per day medical side hustle. They toss out these supplies, I buy them and cash them in. Allow me to explain how this business works. My name is Felix Wisniewski. I've been buying and reselling diabetic medical commodities, also known as diabetic testing supplies, since 2015. I've made well over seven figures doing it, and I want to break it down on exactly how this business works. So, in simple terms, we buy and resell diabetic testing supplies. Now, here is a quick statistic. It says in the United States, approximately 38.4 million people have diabetes, representing 11.6% of the population. This includes both diagnosed and undiagnosed cases. Furthermore, an estimated 97.6 million adults have prediabetes. So I would bet that this number is much higher. In fact, I believe this number or this study came out in 2021. We're now in 2025. So if I had to guess, this number is probably somewhere around 50 or 55 or maybe even 60 million people that have diabetes. And then this number is probably well into the, nine-figure number. So a bunch of people have diabetes. I know it affects millions of people on a daily basis. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but at the same time, I know this disease affects tons of people, but I also understand there's a massive opportunity within it because all of these people that have diabetes and are diabetics, they simply get a surplus of supplies that they don't need and won't use, and they're either going to throw them out or let them expire. I know these four things about every single diabetic. Just for example, my father, he's a diabetic. He's had diabetes basically his whole life, and he gets a surplus of supplies every single month that he simply doesn't need. And he won't use them because he just doesn't have the need to use them. Yes, he uses some of them, but he doesn't use as many as he gets. So with time, they will expire because they'll keep stacking up. And he'll have to eventually throw them out. So in the beginning, I used to buy them from him. Now he gives them to me, and then we sell them and split the profit. But those are four undeniable things about every single diabetic: is they all get a surplus of supplies and they simply don't need and won't use them. So what do is we put out different marketing. These are one of my favorite methods of marketing. They're known as bandit signs. They're basically corrugated plastic signs that we put in high traffic intersections. Some cities are not too fond of them. Some cities don't care. I typically like to put them in areas or zones where you already see these. If you're in a city where, just say, for example, Beverly Hills, you probably won't see any of these signs. But maybe if you drive 20, 30 miles down the road to a different part of LA, you'll see these signs. And I like to kind of blend in with other people that put these signs up and not be the one-off business that puts them in a zone or a city where you see none of these signs. But if you don't want to do signs like this, you could do flyers, Craigslist, business cards, even some things online marketing like having a website, and Facebook ads are all very lucrative formats of marketing where we basically tell people, like, instead of cash for houses or whatever these businesses are selling here, we basically put cash for diabetic supplies. And from there, people call us, people text us, and we screen them and have a list of questions that we ask them, basically asking about what type of diabetic supplies they have, when do they expire, how many boxes, what's the condition, and we give them cash. But first, we buy off a price list, right? So we pay them, cash, check, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. Some people ship them to us and we pay on delivery. And then other people will meet up with them in person. I have a team of drivers that drives around. But, the first year or so I did the business, I would go meet the clients myself, and we pay them whichever payment method they prefer. But we're buying off a price sheet because we know exactly how much we're going to sell these supplies for, right? We're not selling these supplies to like other diabetics or old people or nursing homes. We're selling them to big name wholesalers / pharmacies that then take them and then recycle them onto the shelf, right? So we're a part in this business where we're putting these supplies back on the shelf, because otherwise people would throw them out and let them expire. So we're recycling them. But we buy these based off a guaranteed price sheet. And then once we buy them, we create an invoice. We know exactly how much we're going to sell each box for. It doesn't matter. And just so you guys can see, it doesn't matter if we have one box, 5 boxes, 10 boxes, 20 boxes, 100 boxes, 1,000 boxes. The price simply never changes. And then we box up the box in a box like this. As you can see, I have a bunch of product right in here. And then we box it up, and then we ship it off, and then some buyers or basically vendors will basically pay on delivery once they get the product. But once you build up the relationship, some of them will even pay you up front so then you could take that money and go buy more product. And then we simply just rinse and repeat. So this is the process, right? We do simple marketing. This could be offline and online marketing where we're basically telling people that we're looking to pay cash for their diabetic testing supplies. People call in, we screen them just like any sort of business. You know, if you have a power washing company, if you are a construction company, you're going to ask them specific questions. What do you need done? What's your budget? Stuff like that. We're not trying to sell anything to anybody. We're looking to pay cash, but that's just an example to give you an understanding that we're screening them just like any other business to see, you know, what type of supplies they have, when do they expire, what's the condition, things like that. Where'd you see our sign? Different screening questions, and then we pay them, you know, whichever form of payment they wish. And we're buying based off a price sheet because we already know what these supplies are going to sell for before we even buy them. So it's not like we have to guess. It's not like we have to use eBay. You can use eBay if you have, you know, don't have any contacts like I have. But eBay comes with fees, rules, limits, chargebacks, things that I don't want to deal with anymore at this point in my career. But it is a viable option. And then we put an invoice together on our end. So we're buying based off a price sheet, and then we put an invoice together on our end, and then we ship it off. Most of the time we do use USPS, the post service, the post office, or we'll use things like UPS, but it doesn't really matter which carrier you use. And then once it gets delivered, we get paid, and then it's simply just a rinse and repeat game. The beautiful thing about this business is these clients come back month after month after month after month. So it's a residual repeat factor. So just want to give you guys a quick announcement. I'm hosting a live webinar tonight, July 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click the link below this video to be able to register and get access. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.